Hi, I'm Mike, and welcome to day one of our 5-day painting challenge. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 5-day painting challenge on Create Paintings You Love. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you some of the ideas, some of the rationale of this 5-day painting program or 5-day painting challenge, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to go and launch into the first one here. And then each day we're going to have a new one. Now, the idea behind something like this is to improve yourself as an artist. In doing things like this, exercises or whatever you want to call them, little bits of time you have or however you want to advance as an artist, there's all kinds of things you can do which will make you a better artist. And one of the things to do is actually to limit the amount of time you spend on a painting or on a part of the painting or on a part of the process. And that will make you simplify. The whole point of it is to make you simplify. So it's kind of the keep it simple, stupid principle, the KISS principle, which is used quite a bit in the arts. The simple solution is often the most elegant, the best solution. If you overthink things, you tend to add too much to it. So by limiting in time to 20 minutes, you're going to limit yourself to what you can get done in 20 minutes. Now, the idea is not to just get started. The idea is to finish, and that forces you to simplify each step in the process. So what I've got here is I've got my thumbnail already, or a small sketch, which I've done from the photo you can see here on the monitor. So I've done a little 3-value thumbnail sketch. I've got the photo on the monitor. I've got a square size. I just noticed this is a little more long, but I'm going to make it a little square. It's going to be close to this. I don't measure these, I just do them. But just an idea of where I want to go. I've got a canvas, or in this case a board, the right size. It's gessoed already. And I'm using 3 colors to do this because this one's about value. And I was thinking about doing it in black and white, but let's make it a little more fun than that. So I've got some color here. I've got quinacridone nickel azo gold, and I've got dioxazine purple, matches my apron here. And then I've got something to make it opaque or make it very light if I want to add a white. And this is titanium white. So I've got these 3, and this is what I'm going to do the whole painting with, all right? Now, I'm going to start my timer up here when I start the painting. So I've got 20 minutes. Actually, in this case, I think it's lots of time to do something like this. And, I could work on a painting this size for weeks. And what I would do is keep changing it, keep changing it, keep changing it. But if I've got 20 minutes, I've got enough time to block in my idea, get it in simply, and then move on to the next thing. Another thing about doing this kind of thing, this is, to me, it's kind of like an intermediate step between sketching or coming up with a concept and taking it to a full-blown painting. What I'm doing here is something like an intermediate step where I kind of work out stuff a little bit more than a basic sketch. All right? Okay. Just going to put out some paint here. So titanium white. And these are acrylic paints. I used to do this in oil. I used to do it in watercolor. I've done it in quite a few different mediums over the years. That's obviously a warm. This is a transparent quinacridone nickel azo gold. And then I've got dioxazine purple. Now when you look at the 3 of them there, I've got very light to very dark. That looks black when you look at it. You can't tell that it's purple. When you thin it out a little, you can see it's purple, but what you see there, it looks black. So I've got enough value range to go from very light to very dark. If you're going to do this with other colors, and you don't have to do it with these 3, I'd suggest you use a white and 2 colors, but just pick one of the colors that has enough value to make a dark color or dark value is the proper way to put it. So don't pick something like cadmium yellow and, cobalt blue or something like that. You're not going to get a dark value. So you want something that'll give you enough value to make it worth doing. Okay. So how to start? In the beginning, I always start with the biggest brush I can. Oh, I got to put the timer on. Okay. Got to reset my timer here, or I'm going to be in big trouble. Everybody's going to think. All right. So 20 minutes, and we're off. You'll hear the beep when it's over. Now, don't panic. People panic when they're under pressure. Think about what you're going to do. Think about getting from the beginning to the end, and then just take your time and execute each step as best as you can. What I'm going to do in mine is I'm going to cover this whole thing first with just water. I could use a mixture of medium and water, but I just want to have just water, and I'm going to paint my lightest value on this. What that means is I'm going to do something that's light, and then I'm going to do just a simple gradation across it from one to the other. I could go sideways. Now this is going to represent some of the light value in the final painting. Now I don't know where exactly, and I'm not trying to do anything in particular. All I want to do is get a change going across it. This is to take the water out of my brush. Okay, now this is a really high tinting or strong pigment or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to thin it out a little more. And there's the Dioxin Violet. So that's the violet. And I'm just going to paint that into it. And just let it do its own thing. Now, that's just to pick up any water so that it doesn't bleed up after. It's very wet, but that's okay. You can see what happens to the paint, how it kind of does its own thing here. And here, the paint is staying. It's not running as much. Here, it's running more. There, it's running less. But you get these little bits of interesting stuff happening. And what I mean by interesting stuff is I'm going to get a granulation or separation. I've used just water in this case, so I'm going to get more. And so that's going to do its own thing. And since I've only got 20 minutes, should I panic? No, you don't need to panic. Don't panic. I'm going to let it go for a sec, and then I'm going to blow dry it. And then I'm going to do another layer on top on dry. All right, so I just want to let this go for a second or two until I stop getting the strip at the bottom. I've already spent 3 minutes on this thing. Okay, so that's dry. Only takes a minute or two. If you live on the prairies or in the desert, it's going to be dry by itself. You don't even have to worry about it. Here on the West Coast where it's pouring rain all the time, you need a hair dryer. Okay, now the next step is I'm going to do another layer and I'm going to paint kind of the mid-tone pattern. So I'm going to go over everything that's going to be mid-tone or darker, kind of like the way I do my thumbnails. It's simple. I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush. So this is a 1 inch. I'm not going to wet it down, but what I am going to do, and add a little bit of white, titanium white to the dioxazine purple. I like violet better, so I often call it dioxazine violet, but get something that's close to a mid-tone. Big enough pile, which means enough paint. And then I'm going to paint everywhere that's mid-tone and kind of go across again. Keep it simple. So I don't have any light up in here. I'm going to leave a little bit there. I get over into there. Now, this is fairly thin in the sense that you can see through this to some degree, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to paint it really thick, but it's not runny like the first mixture. It's not into wet, and that's just so it stays a little more. That's what I want it to do, so I can do a little more painting into it. Now, this is still wet. Now what I want to do is I want to switch back to this other stuff, my warm. And again, I've added a tiny bit of white, not much, because I want it to retain a mid-tone quality. I'm going to paint a little bit back into that. You can see how the value is very close to this. And this is what I'm interested in this particular piece, is trying to get the values, light, mid-tone, dark. I can go lighter than this because I've got the white, and I'm going to paint a little bit more opaque over top. But in general, so you see how I just softened that in? I want a little bit of that. Now I'm going to go back to the violet again. It's a little too dark. I want that to soften in, so just paint back in. And more of the violet. So this time I've got less water in the brush. I just want it a little bit deeper. So half my time's up. There's a midtone pattern. And now I'm gonna come in on top of this while it's still wet, and I'll get a little bit of a harder edge in places and softer where it's still wet, but that's okay. I just don't have a lot of time, so a dark value. And jump over the other side. Right about there. Funny little shapes. You can add a little bit of the white to it just to get a bit of variety. Down to where the river is. So what I want really dark is just up in here. Around that guy, down into there, there, there. Break it up a bit. And just soften that in a bit. Okay. There's some light there up through there, up through there, up through there. Now, one thing you can't do is a lot of detail. But you can get a good arrangement of values and some interesting stuff happening and kind of figure out where you're trying to go. With the painting. This is close to pure white, but it's not pure white. Okay. That's just straight Dioxin Violet, so I can get a real dark. Now what I want to do is get a real good arrangement of values. Values, values, values. And a couple of little things. In the midtone, and a few little darks. I got a minute left. I want that one, and along the edge there, along the edge there, because that kind of brings you forward. It's important. A little one in there, one in there. Get the river in there. A couple of lumps of snow, and I think I'm good. That's all I'm going to have time for. Done. Can you hear that? That's 20 minutes, okay? So basically, I've got it roughed in, started a painting, or finished a painting. Let me just turn this off so you can hear me. Okay. So what have I done here? 20-minute painting, okay? Now, one of the things that happens in the art business that's funny, or I think it's funny, a lot of things are funny, but I've also always found, sometimes, you know, when you do these things, you go really quick and they turn out good. Sometimes you go really quick and they turn out bad, but you do learn from whatever you do. Sometimes you learn not to do it again, but when it turns out good, right? And somebody says, what is that? Artists are usually self-deprecating. They're, you know, they don't want to brag. They always say everything's a sketch, right? Or this is an exercise, or, you know, something to that effect, right? And what I always tell people is, when you do that, if somebody comes up and says, I want to buy it, or that's really good, that's when you say, no, it's a painting now. Because if it's good, it's a painting. If it's not so good, it's a sketch, it's an exercise. But try this one. Try, you know, just arranging your values simply, light, mid-tone, dark, 2 colors. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, right? You can see I can get a lot of information. I have lots of time, and I've got a simple painting there that I can work on more if I want, or just leave it as it is. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a good result with your exercise. And don't forget to send your paintings into our site, I'm Canadian. Create Paintings You Love, and look forward to the next one. The next one is on, this is values, the next one shapes. And then we do color, edges, and the last one is just having fun, design. I hope you found this information useful. And I have a handout called How to Fix Your Painting, and you can get it by clicking on the link below. And thank you for watching.